spirit light, your source light coming into you.
Oh, beautiful. And while we've got our wonderful children and mothers and teachers sitting up here, let's just pray a special blessing on our children's program. I want to be thankful for Tashi, who has been leading our children's program for quite a while now, and she actually is from Tibet, right? But then, with the displacement from Tibet, people had to go to India, so grew up in India, and she teaches our international omni-faith spiritual children's program, where every month they're focusing on a different faith tradition. So it's a great training for children. And, it's just great to have Tashi with us. Marla, who's I don't think here today, but she's works with Tashi with it. And we just want to thank you, mothers, for bringing your kids and valuing this kind of omni-faith exposure for them, because that's going to shape their lives and give them a diverse, open hearts. So, and let them know that there's a spirituality that their moms and dads like and are infusing into them. So we thank you so much for bringing them, and we just pray that our children's program will expand again. It goes through expansions and contractions. So put out the word to people that you know that this wonderful weekly training is going on, spiritual training for our kids. So we bless you on your way, and thank you for coming, and have a wonderful time together with Tashi. Aho. Aho.
What's that?
Magic feathers? By way of setting our sacred space now for our adult time together, I'd like you to stand with me, and we're going to salute, greet the four directions. So we begin looking at this beautiful stained glass representing the Kabbalah with the light shining through it, and we welcome the powers of the East. Morning light, new beginnings, seeing from the eye of the eagle or the condor who flies so high that we could see from a God's eye perspective. We need that right now in our world. We need to have some of us humans fly really high and see from this higher perspective, to see with the eyes of grace that everything's going to be okay. So we welcome you, great powers of the East. Come and bless us. Be with us now. We say together, Aho. And then we turn toward the south. And you can raise your hands if you want. Feel your feet grounded and really welcome into your body the powers of the south. The great entry gate of the spirit of the south. We bid you to open as we open our hearts to these powers in the south that have to do with children and seeing from a close-up child's eye point of view. Help us to see our world that way, to not judge it, but to have a fresh beginner's mind, to see things like the snake does crawling along in the grass, or the mouse, to see it from a view where we're close to the earth. And in the south, we also welcome the fires of inspiration, the fires of spirit. Come and burn through us now and cleanse us, Great Spirit. Come to us, powers of the south. Aho. And now we turn to the back of the room, to the west. Great powers of the west, we think of the ocean, the depths of the deep blue sea, where reside all the fishes and amazing creatures of the sea. There's wisdom there in the depths that we don't even fathom. We need the wisdom of maturity at this time on our planet. Help us to open to the unseen, the unknown, the things that we don't even comprehend, to gather wisdom for these times. Please come and be with us now, powers of the West. Aho. Aho. And now we turn toward the north. And in the north we picture the great volcanic mountains like Mount Shasta and Mount Hood and Mount McLaughlin. We're so blessed in this part of the country to have these great grandmothers and grandfathers with us. We open our souls to the grandeur of time passing on earth. We know we're just a small part of all that happens here, and yet such a precious human life we have. So we stand right now in connection with our ancestors and connection with those that will come after us. And we ask for the powers of the north, the great white buffalo calf woman, the return of the Christ energies, the spirit of prophecy to come upon us, that we may know and be wise in these times when we have to think about the children that come after us. Come and be with us now, great powers of the mountain in the north. Aho. And now we turn toward the center again, and we feel ourselves grounded here as an axis mundi, a pillar between heaven and earth. We have a special mission here, to be connected to the divine with our feet on the earth and connect with each other through our hearts. So we open our hearts right now. We ask for each one of you to come present here with your full mind and attention and spirit, because we're going to do a work here today, a spiritual work that will have rippling effects on all sentient beings. So we welcome you here in your bodhicitta heart presence. Come and be with us now, each one of you. Aho. Aho. And now turn to several persons around you. sacred and interesting times we're living in. On August 21st, 2017, a total solar eclipse will cross the entire contiguous United States, beginning in Oregon and ending in South Carolina. Some are calling 2017 the year of the Great American Eclipse, or the Eclipse of America. Incredibly, the eclipse will actually begin as soon as the sun rises on the west coast, because it's interesting that the sun appears to rise in the east and set in the west, but eclipses travel in the opposite direction. In other words, people will witness a black sun rising over the United States. It's also been noted that another total solar eclipse will cross the United States at an opposite angle 7 years later in 2024, making an X spot in the middle of the United States. Total eclipse has been visible in the United States for 99 years, so not in our lifetimes, and yet 2 will happen in the next short while. There's no more awe-inspiring event in nature than the majesty of a total solar eclipse. In those brief, enchanting minutes, the natural becomes the supernatural. Day shifts to night. The temperature dramatically drops, and stars magically glow in a rapidly darkened sky. The ancients marveled at this miracle of the sun being swallowed in the heavens. Its mystery and appeal are timeless. Historically, the recording of eclipses is a cross-cultural phenomenon. They were feared not only by ordinary people, but by kings and emperors too. This auspicious triple alignment of the sun, the moon, and the earth was always deemed a harbinger of powerful change. Because eclipses do upset the natural order, they interrupt the regularity of the 2 most important hands on the celestial clock, the sun and the moon. In earlier times, the sun and the moon determined the annual calendar, of hunting and harvest. Both were essential for daily survival. We've gotten more out of touch with the cycles, but some of us are, they make a practice, a spiritual practice of being in touch with the cycles of the moon and the sun and astrology. But this disturbance to the natural cycle was not surprisingly interpreted as a heavenly sign of change, or that the gods were displeased. For example, any expected change to the established order was the last thing that a power-observant ruler would want, right? A disturbance to the natural way that things were going. So eclipses have long been known to change political order. When the shadow of the moon eclipses the sun, this causes a lot of upheaval, as the moon is very lunar, emotional, instinctual, intuitive qualities of the subconscious for a few moments completely override the sun's solar yang qualities, which are much more linear, rational, action-oriented. In other words, the shadow comes out and covers the sun. Shadows coming out is not necessarily a bad thing. It's necessary for change to occur, right? Changes can come as a sudden surprise, or they can build up gradually, but the notion of new beginnings is what's mostly accentuated at the time of the eclipse. And this eclipse overlaps with Mercury being retrograde too, which marks a major window of time, which we will see change. Time is going to be affected somehow. Native people saw the eclipses as windows or portals interrupting cosmic time, kind of making a tear in the fabric of time so that we could leap through into potentialities that aren't usually available. Isn't that exciting? A hole, a window. So really, solar eclipses are a positive cosmic influence, however unsettling they can be, or destabilizing and challenging. The moon is quite literally and energetically blocking the sun's rays, so expect to experience intensity, heightened gut feelings, and amplified intuition during this time. being a total solar eclipse, the sun rises in its full force, then it's blotted out. The sun is a huge ball of energy, so it represents higher consciousness. And the pattern is this, in our world, it's going to be in our sense of it, that we will have this intense power surge that then gets knocked right out into the dark mystery of the unknown and the unseen. And then it will be followed by a heightened coming forth again, a renaissance of an amped up power surge. In other words, you're going to go through a rapid cycle of great intensity and amplified light and dark and light. It's said that the solar eclipses bring a focus or like a spotlight on any male in a position of rulership. The sun is masculine, like we've said, and it represents the ego, needs, and impulses. The moon is feminine, representing emotions and the needs of the deep unconscious. So this polarity can play out in different ways. And people in ancient times had this sense that what we do and think during this most auspicious window has an impact. So it's important what we feel and do and think during that time period. You can see in people gathering from all over the world. Have you been listening to it on the news, what's happening? You know, that hotels are sold out in all of these cities all across the country where it's going to be touching at its peak. I heard about a town in Kentucky where they've been focusing on it for a year, getting ready, because they knew they'd have to have a lot more food production, a lot more hotels, a lot more services available. So their whole town has been focusing on it for a long time. So the energy of this solar eclipse, everybody knows it's an amplification of specific qualities, and it depends on what sign it's coming in the zodiac. So it's coming in the house of Leo. So that has to do with the lion, with rulership, etc. So it's going to definitely be affecting rulership on our planet. Effects of this energy are being felt. They have been for quite a while leading up to it, and it says that we'll be definitely under the effects of it for at least 6 months afterwards. So the time of eclipses can be used to symbolically clear and cleanse stagnant areas in our life and in our body politic. New initiatives, really new initiatives, radically new initiatives coming out of the deep, dark, unconscious, and mystical realms are in season now. So may we utilize the eclipse in powerful ways to refocus and turn our own shadows into light. During the eclipse itself, you're going to see black sun with rays of light coming out all around it. And one thing that I read from a Kabbalist, he said that these are literally rays of hope. And they remind us that even during the dark periods of life and on our planet, that we are to always be looking for those small signs that tell us that God is with us. So that's my topic for today. During this eclipse, God is with us. Grace is with us. So we'll be exploring that today as we go along. This music is so fitting for the feeling of these auspicious times that we're in. So now we're going to have this wonderful new instrument that Janae was telling me about. What is it called again, Janae?
Crystal lyre.
Crystal lyre. Tell us a little bit about it and then take us into a meditation.
Well, it's made of 99% crystal. And it's tuned, each one, to different calibrations for healing. And depending on which chords you play, it can be used for different aspects of healing. But it has a very angelic tone to it.
Yeah, let's use this time as a prayer to tune into the angelic realms. They are watching us. They are helping us. Let's call forth our own angels and the angels of planet Earth. to be with us now. Most exquisite. During times like these, we've all lived through ups and downs. And during times when we're called to go really deep, to bring forth something important and special, creative process, we've got to turn to the creativity within us, to the mastery within us that is our poet self, or our musician self, or our dancer self. That part of us that hears from the other dimensions and that isn't necessarily stopping ourselves by thinking it all through first, but that realizes, oh, I just got a message here and I've got to bring it forth. In times of old, during different seasons like this, prophets would come forth. It said that your young people shall see visions and your old people shall dream dreams, and they'll be speaking out in prophetic languages. Well, there have been a lot of prophetic things being said on the internet about the eclipse. And some people are looking at it as a dangerous and negative time, like humans are wont to do. And they're saying it's the end times, but, they're saying, but it's a good thing really, because it means the second coming of Christ, but they're looking at it like the entry of tribulation and so forth. Well, in New Thought and in all of my life experience, I've come to experience that God is full of so much more grace and mercy than we can even imagine, that I tend to focus through my experience that way. Whenever a challenge comes up, there's so much grace and so much mercy available and so much love in these moments that we need to attune our minds and hearts that direction, right? And that's why I think you're here in unity consciousness and New Thought and in the kind of spiritual path that we walk. And so one of the places that I love to turn to for inspiration of these higher thoughts, so to speak, deeper thoughts, thoughts that really connect us with the divine, are to poets. And David White is one of my favorite poets. So many times we've shared his poetry here. There's 2 poems that I've asked our wonderful poet readers to come and share with us today. And they're about what we have to do in times like this. And the first one is about just taking one step at a time. Thank you, Karen. Sure.
This is called Start Close In. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first. Close in the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, on your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice until that voice becomes a private ear that you can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you could call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake another for your own. Start close in. Don't take a second step or a third. Start with the first. Close in, the step you don't want to take.
So just pause for a moment and read another poem first. What is that step for you? Whoa, what is that close-in step that you don't want to take, but you're getting an intuition about it? Just pause for a moment and ask yourself that. We can often think of grand gestures or big things that should change in the world, but really Spirit calls upon us to take that and close in, just next step. Please think about that in this moment and recommit to Spirit. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that close-in step. And if I don't know what it is, I'm going to wait and listen and not, like it said, get confused by a lot of other input, but really listen deep within, especially if it's a particularly hard time. Listen, and then take that step that you're guided to take. And this next poem is a little more encouragement along those lines, and it's called The Path.
Good morning. I'm always amazed at how my soul wakes up when Norma says, "Would you like to read a poem?" And it's always perfect for me. This is entitled No Path. Then there's a quote: "There is no path that goes all the way." Han Shan. Not that it stops us looking for the full continuation. The one line in the poem we can start and follow straight to the end. The fixed belief we can hold, facing a stranger, that saves us the trouble of a real conversation. But one day you are not just imagining an empty chair where your loved one sat. You are not just telling a story where the bridge is down and there's nowhere to cross. You are not just trying to pray to a God you had always imagined would keep you safe. No, you've come to a place where nothing you've done will impress, and nothing you can promise will avert the silent confrontation. The place where your body already seems to know the way, having kept to the last its own secret reconnaissance. But still, there is no path that goes all the way. One conversation leads to another, one breath to the next, until there's no breath at all. Just the inevitable final release of the burden. And then, wouldn't your life have to start all over again for you to know even a little of who you had been?
I'd like to ask you to join me with a song. It's a Plains Indian song called Away Ahay. The words are Away Ahay, 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 Away Ahay, Ahay, Ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to, good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, 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 away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to.
Let's everybody stand and really get into this.
Away, ahay, 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 away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay.
Let's use this now as we let's walk around to each other and look at a few people and affirm to them it's good where you've been and it's good where you're going. We need this reassurance. So let's sing it to each other.
Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Good where we've been, good where we're going to. Away, ahay, ahay, ahay.
in unity we say God is good or Goddess is good all the time. Can you say that with me? God is good all the time. It's a great affirmation, isn't it? Because sometimes we might be in situations where we would tend to think, is God really good? Or we could look at situations in the world and wonder. But we affirm it over and over again. God is good all of the time. So in order to do that, we have to trust what is not always seen. Right? We've got to trust what's not always seen. The word used for grace, unmerited favor, is, I think, sometimes misunderstood because it doesn't really mean that it's undeserved. Unmerited means more like it cannot be earned. There's nothing you can do to earn it. It's God's provision just because. Grace is a convergence of energy, something we bring to the table that meets what's already there. Grace, something we bring that meets what's already there. A convergence of energy, like the cross of the two eclipses, maybe. So let's look at this time, this auspicious time for the United States, as a time of great grace. The great eclipse of America is the great gracing of America. How about that?
Yes.
A great opportunity to open to our needs being met in perhaps unexpected ways. New Thought teachings have this quote, "Your spoken and unspoken needs delight in my provision." Your spoken and unspoken needs delight in my provision. Delight isn't neediness. Delight isn't desperation. Delight is surprise and joy in seeing how God provides for us in unexpected ways. That's grace. Now, expectancy is different than expectation. Expectation can get us in a lot of trouble. Someone once said, expectation is a resentment waiting to happen. Yeah, you realize that in your relationships. I expected you to be home at 5 o'clock. I expected you to do the dishes. Expectation is a resentment waiting to happen. So much of our inability to conceive of God's grace is the fact that we're locked into particular expectations. The expectation is of our predefined ideas about how it's supposed to happen. If it's not going to happen that way, we think it's not going to happen at all, right? If you didn't do the dishes before I got home, that means you're not going to do them. If you didn't hear what I said, it means it's never going to get done. Well, our expectations tell us that it's the only way that something can happen, or the only way that we want it to happen. Even though there may be other ways, we don't want to hear it when we have expectations. If you're any kind of a God, you will listen to me and you'll do it my way. God, can't you just do it my way sometimes? Well, no. God will always say no to our rigid expectations. In order to experience grace, we have to get beyond expectation to expectancy, because expectancy is wide open. For example, you know that from raising a child. If you lock in too many particular expectations about how that child's going to grow up and be in the world, you're going to be in trouble. But you can have expectancy that the child will have a loving relationship and find their fulfillment and creativity. And you can support them in this open-ended way, right, in finding their way. So we need to live our lives that way, with that kind of open-endedness, so that we can be open to other ways. So it doesn't have to be that the job has only got to get done this way. We get caught up in the details of our needs, don't we? For example, I need a car. So we could focus on what we think we need to be able to get the car, like I need the cash, or I need to clean up my credit, or I must get a loan that I can qualify for, so we can spend all of our time in thinking about needing that car in the attachment to where the car is going to come from, instead of in the consciousness of imagining the car. Who knows? Maybe a neighbor could get called to work overseas and say to you, I want you to use my car for a year. Or someone could die and leave the car to you. Unseen ways in which the car could manifest. It's just a little example, but it's the same thing whether it's a material object or not. We've got to move into the place of expectancy where we know that something can take place. Do you think we could do that for the particular problems of our individual lives and for the problems in our world right now? We get these expectations and we get attached to and locked into trying to imagine things happening in certain detailed ways. We lose all sense of possibility consciousness when we do that. Can you relate to that? I can. The grace is not in your expectation. The grace trumps your expectation. What we need to do is open up ourselves wide to pure possibility. The English language is tricky this way. When we say, God makes a way out of no way, we interpret that to mean out of nothing. But we interpret nothing as if it's void of anything. But as I've said before, nothing is no thing that God operates out of. But we can't talk about this too much because it's hard for our human minds to really get this, that God is not creating out of the something right here around us. We think God is going to bring something out of all the somethings around us. But God is going to bring something out of the vast eternity of the cosmos, where at the very core of it is no thing. So it's hard for us to grasp this, but it's not hard for God. We think in terms of like these little tinker toys that God has to work with, that we can see all around us, but no, God is really into the business of miracles. And there is no limit to what God can create. Isn't that an incredible realization, really, that God doesn't have to create out of the something of our current realities? When we say the first law of thermodynamics in quantum physics, it is that matter is created or destroyed. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Matter is pure energy. It can only be transmuted or transformed. This is because it's the energy behind the matter that keeps changing form. It's the energy behind it all, right? So that's what we're to pay attention to, the energy. It's not the material world that we need to keep our eyes so fixed on. We need to attune our eyes to those things that cannot be seen, to the energy behind it. For example, you know this when you create something like a song. There's energy behind that song that moves you. Or if you create a poem, you're creating it because you feel an energy is moving you. Can just tune into a time in your life right now when you've created something. Maybe it was a piece of clothing, or some material object, or something more etheric like a poem, or a dance, or a song. It was because you were in a flow of grace, so to speak, don't you think? That creativity came through you. If you get too stuck too much in a particular way of doing things or a particular form, like if you're a writer and you get really stuck in the habitual way of writing, you could get dried up in your writing abilities. Or if you get really stuck even in love, for example, if you get too much stuck on the form and question it all the time, am I doing the right thing in this relationship? The love will stop flowing. And like with dance, like you can learn the cha-cha, go 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. But at a certain point, you've got to let go of the 1, 2, cha-cha-cha to really dance. You've got to really get into it, or it's not going to happen. So, at some point, we have got to let go into the greater mystery, into our deeper selves, And that's the point that we're at with this great eclipse. It's a time when we know we need something more grace than what's going on all around us. If we just looked at what's going on around us, it might seem scary. But that's why we practice affirmations, we practice mind mapping, we practice meditation, because all of these things have just been training us like training wheels on a bicycle, you know. It's there. All these things that we've been practicing are there to keep us going and steady through the difficult times. The very things that have propped us up, you know, are there to keep us going steady. But at a certain point, what happens with training wheels? We even have to let go of the training wheels, because all the things that we've practiced up to a certain point can actually hold us back when we're being called to a greater mystery. That's the point that we're at on planet Earth. It's true of everything in the material world, that at a certain point we have to let go to go into the greater mystery. Do you hear what I'm saying here? It's awesome, but exciting. I mean, even in the business world, they call it the law of diminishing returns. From any input, there are certain combinations of those things that will produce the best output. But there comes a certain point in time that the optimal output, well, let me say this again. There comes a certain point in time beyond the optimal point that the same actions will be counterproductive. So that's the idea of diminishing returns. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, at a certain point, counterproductive. So you don't have to keep labeling things as good or bad, right or wrong to change, really. It's just that they get outmoded. Things just get outmoded. So just think about that for your own life for a minute. Like, for example, with food. It's not good or bad. It just is. And you can take in a certain amount of food into your body, but after a certain point, too much intake of the food is not good for you. Exercise, it's good, but beyond a certain point, too much is not good for you. It's good to love your children, but too much smothering love will cripple them. You know what I mean? So there comes a point in which we've got to open up to something else and see and conceive of something entirely different than we've ever seen before. You know, like even with a positive attitude, we can have a positive attitude that will get us through the muck of our lives and keep us going on our way. But like that poem by David White was saying, paths come to an end. And I'm not saying not to be positive. I'm not saying not to eat, not to love, all of that. No, it's not about that. But there comes a time when we've got to open up to grace, where there's something nudging us, something that may feel uncomfortable even, coming up from the unconscious or the shadow realms that's nudging us, that's saying to us, you've got to make more room for spirit. Spirit is our crowning glory, and it just wants to be in all of its glory in us more and more and more, unhampered by our boxes and our limited thinking, you know? Spirit is calling us to more beauty, to more expression of love, to more power, to more peace. Spirit's just looking for one thing from you, a yes. But it's also saying to you, you're not going to be able to see it with your natural eye, what I'm calling you to. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Like, just a simple example. All of you started off someplace this morning, right? Assuming you went to bed last night. Hello? You woke up somewhere. Can you see that place right here, right now? Well, you see it in your mind's eye, but it doesn't exist right here, right now, does it? I know it's just a silly example, but, right? Things exist that you can't see in any particular moment. If we go by what we see, we're in deep trouble, because we can only see so much, and we only have eyes in the front of our heads, as a matter of fact. So when we say our good is all around us, we can't even see behind us. We can't see to the, sides that the good might even be coming from. So you can't see everything with your natural sight, but there is an inner eye, a third eye. All spiritual teachings talk about the importance of the spiritual sight. It's a place of seeing that you're not stuck, on the outer world of perception. Every spiritual tradition tells us that we should not judge by appearances of things, that it really is an illusion, Maya. Our physical eyes are not what we should ultimately depend on. During times such as these, like an eclipse, this point comes home to us. We can't see everything with our physical eyes. We can't even look at the eclipse directly. I mean, I think that's just kind of a good joke about it, you know. Some people of old, though, were fooled by this great darkness covering the sun, you know. We read how people got really scared when the eclipses of the sun would come because they worried that the sun wouldn't return. And they felt like it was a threat of great evil taking over everything. Well, now if you go online, you can read a lot of websites where people are saying the same thing. It's not just people of old, but some people today are still fooled by the appearances of threats of great evil. Don't be one of those who's fooled by appearances. Things are optical illusions. The horizon is an optical illusion. Our perception is what is needing shifting in order for our world to change. If you wear glasses, for example, you know how it just shifts your perception of how things are registering in your brain. And pain pills, for example, are just shifting your perception of pain. So I want to offer that prayer is like putting on our spiritual eyeglasses. It works with our spiritual perception. The glasses change what we can see. So the stuff of this world might be making us blind. The stuff of the world is like wearing blinders. We can't see. Really, we can't see what's really happening, what's really available. If we're willing to live from a place of expectancy and a place of spiritual perception and be open, then you may see something that you didn't plan on. I had a dream once that the end times that everyone talks about is really about a shift of perception. And that those who shift their perception are going to be seeing great glory coming on earth. Well, it's true that humans have always thought about the future and wanted to make future plans and future prophecies. But there may be something that's simpler and easier and quicker and more delightful that God is bringing to us than we've ever imagined. We've got to let go and accept the bigger picture when it shows up. You know how we say, this Lord, or something better? In organizational development work, which I've been involved in for years, we always help companies to develop a strategic plan, but did you know that they don't really ultimately care about what the strategic plan was? That really they're just doing it to get everybody together and start clarifying and getting on the same page and get everyone's ideas out there. They're really doing it so that there's not inertia, so that there's not a stuckness, because they know if people are in motion, then you can start moving toward the good. You're more likely to be able to move when the good comes around. Stuck is not no motion, it is repetitive motion. Stuck is the same motion over and over. Are you stuck in your ways of perceiving? Are you stuck in any ways of acting in your life? Repetitive motion over and over. So expectancy gets you moving out of these stuck patterns, gets you open and receptive. It gets you participating beyond the little tinker toys that you thought you had to work with in your life. If you're not willing to do this, then you already have set the ceiling of your life. If the past is the precedent for your future, then you can never go higher than you've expected. So don't top off the miracles that could happen. Grace is in the miracles. Heaven forbid that you should dare to imagine that that could be possible for you. There are miracles all around. You have to have eyes to perceive them. Don't just look for the problems when you search on the internet. If you're searching about social justice or your physical health or whatever you're searching for on the internet, don't be Googling for problems. Google for possibilities. Look for the miracles, even on the internet. Look for the examples of possibilities out there all around us. Look for people who are breaking all the borders and the boundaries out of what has been done and going out there and fulfilling their wildest dreams. Let yourself be inspired by that, and it will open you up. So during this eclipse time, remember, it's a time when the light is darkened for a moment, so that the eyes of your soul may be open to eternity. I pray that you will fully participate, not just receive, because really it's already here. So it's about participating in this grace that has already been provided for us. This great American eclipse really might mean a great grace is being poured out on you and me and for our whole planet. So can we have the spiritual eyes to really see and the courage to really go into the changes that are being set before us? Hallelujah. I hope so. Hallelujah. Time together right now to kind of seal this in for us, and we'll have some music behind it. So sink into your seat there and just feel your hips grounded. Take a deep breath. In and out. Inhaling. Sweet, clear light, and exhaling. Just returning within in this moment. We know that the great is, the unseen, the invisible Spirit of God is taking shape in us. Spirit, infinite Spirit. We know that you cannot be contained in the finite. Creator, we know that you are bigger than your creation. So in this moment right now, all we can do is give thanks. We really do give thanks. We're leaping up in our hearts, knowing that even as courage is called forth from us, you give us the courage to look beyond all of our lacks and limitations, that we have this courage in us, this heart movement that is moving us to this place of pure expectancy. We can feel it moving in us, breaking down those things that seem to be stuck or on the wrong track. We feel it moving in us, this courage to look through all appearances and call forth the perfect pattern that has never yet been. No matter how much abuse or poverty or addiction or suffering of any kind that we've had, there's something inside of us, our raw God essence, that knows nothing of all of that. God, just let me be. Let me not be shackled. Let me be so full of you that I have the courage to heed the call of this moment. Please, please, God, listen to our hearts right now. Listen to this life stirring in us that is our future calling. Spirit is speaking to us today, and all we have to do is say yes to possibilities that we've never seen or known yet. Spirit, help us to say yes to this grace that you are always providing. Help us to get into the flow right now, to imagine ourselves stepping away from stuck energies that have been hard for us, that haven't been working, and moving right into the flow of your grace in this moment. This prayer we are praying for our own needs. We also pray for those people in our lives who are heavy on our hearts. We draw them to mind right now. Somebody who might be suffering an illness or a discouragement of some kind. We imagine these people moving right into the flow of grace. We imagine that the circumstances and conditions don't have any power to keep them from God's provision for them. We intend to say yes. We intend to say yes, Spirit, to every challenge that comes up in the near future here. We will heed the call. We will feel the sense of restlessness as something unsettling us as our future calling, and we will say yes. We'll say yes to all the needs that aren't met yet, knowing that your grace is wanting to fulfill us with delight. We see ourselves stepping right into that flow. for ourselves and all the people that we can think of right now, and all the circumstances and conditions that are heavy on our mind for this planet. We pray that all needs be met now. Help in our holy body temples, divine right residence, divine right companionship, divine right work, divine right transportation, clarity in the midst of our confusion, forgiveness and reconciliation where hearts have been hardened, direction and guidance for clarity, no more splits and fragmentation, we pray. We step into the flow where trust and truth and courage and strength abide, where peace and rest are in the midst of the night hour. We claim joy unbounded despite all appearances, because it's who we are. So right now, Spirit, we say thank you. We say thank you. We say thank you right now. Our attitude of gratitude becomes a decoder for all our circumstances. Where we see things not working right away, we're going to say, another way will appear. No more endless struggles and swimming upstream for me, no. We don't go by appearances. We have the courage to trust that, yes, all things are working together for good. Can you say that with me? All things are working together for good. Thank you, God. It's so good, and it is done. We'll just get out of the way and allow it to be. That's all we have to do, and so it is. So it will be. Amen. Amen. Doesn't that music just help you to feel like it is finished in grace? Finished in grace. It's time to take our offering now.